All right. Well, I guess let me get this kicked off then. Hi, everybody. Welcome to our 2026 webinar to start the Atlantic hurricane season. I'm Justin Bragiel with the Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. I'm joined today by our host, actually, our colleague Christy Gwynn, with our partnerships department here at Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. You'll hear Christy's voice come on in a few minutes when I go through the legal slides. And our friends over at ServPro will have a presentation for us today too to talk about how to get your hotel property back up and running after a disaster comes your way. Let me go ahead and share my screen here. I have a slide deck here. Let's do it. Okay, there we go. First, I wanted to just get started here with sort of the legal issues that you need to be aware of as a hotel operator when a hurricane or other natural disaster affects your region. And I say region because it's not necessarily what we're talking about here isn't necessarily going to affect your hotel property specifically. It could, and we can talk about that. But really, if you're in a region of Texas that is feeling the impact of some sort of a disaster, if you're in an area where the governor has declared an emergency or disaster, we're going to go over what you need to know. And the idea here is we want you to stay out of trouble. And there's real danger here and trouble, a potential legal liability if you're not careful. So that's what we're going to talk about here today. And then our friends at ServPro will go through more of the physical aspects of getting your property back in order. So let's get going. So first of all, that's me. I'm the General Counsel and Legislative Director for Texas Hotel and Lodging Association. Our contact information is here. You already have that via your email as well. Our website is texaslodging.com. If you don't have a login for texaslodging.com and all of the resources we have available there on that website, we have a contact us for your login information. Encourage you to get involved. Picture of Hurricane Harvey, one of the last very major storms to hit the Texas coast and really affect a wide swath of the state and lodging operations, and certainly something that while we don't want to acknowledge, we know, in fact, that another big storm like that will eventually impact the Texas coast. Will it be this year? Hopefully not. Will it be next year? Hopefully not. But at some point, it's just inevitable given our geography. So what do we do? What do we do in an emergency situation? What's THLA's role? Well, it's really kind of an all hands on deck sort of a situation. When a big storm or a big disaster, a big widespread disaster impacts the state of Texas, all our team jumps into action. We work with governments. We work with first the state government, the governor's office, TDM, the Texas Department of Emergency Management, Texas Department of Public Safety, Public Utilities Commission, all of these state agencies that have some sort of a role in disaster response or disaster preparation. We immediately get involved with them to try and coordinate messages to hotel operators, in some case, the traveling public about disaster evacuation areas or staging areas, those sort of things. We work preemptively on things like notices on pricing. We're going to talk at length about that. We'll then work, to try and anticipate where hotel room demand will go. From there, we go to securing hotel rooms. So assisting hotel evacuees, first responders, second responders, et cetera, in placing those individuals in temporary housing in hotels. We'll work with FEMA if they operate or activate their emergency lodging network as well. So those are the kinds of things we do. And then legal operations and support. And this really runs the full length of the disaster, everything from the onset of a storm going all the way through the aftermath of the storm. And then if we do have some issues that deal with things like price gouging and whatnot, we're going to be involved there. We're trying to mitigate that. So that's what we're really taking, what our role is. And it's really, there's a lot going on. So what's the most critical thing you need to be aware of if a storm or other disaster is on the horizon? What should you know? What should you know today? Well, in Texas, like most states, we have price gouging laws that come into effect not every day. So, World Cup is occurring right now. And if you're in the Houston market or if you're in the Dallas Fort Worth market, hopefully, I'm a hotel lawyer, right? Hopefully your lodging rates are up, they're elevated. Hopefully that demand is high, your RevPAR is cooking along and you're doing real well. And that's just great, right? There's not currently an emergency or disaster declared in any of those regions. So if your demand is high for hotel rooms in those markets due to something like a special event, that's great. You can price your room as the market will bear. We don't have price controls in those sort of a situation. So you're free to price your room as you see fit to the extent you can sell those rooms. However, if there is a disaster or an emergency declared by the governor of Texas, we have a statute, a law, a written law that goes into effect. It's the Texas DTPA. This is a protective law that goes into effect that protects members of the public from certain predatory in scare quotes, certain predatory actions that may take effect. So price controls in effect really do start to take, go into effect when this happens. So what the law says is that selling fuel, food, medicine, or any necessity at an exorbitant or an excessive price, or demanding an exorbitant or excessive price in connections with these sales is unlawful. Okay, exorbitant or excessive. This is triggered again by the governor's emergency or disaster declaration. But interestingly, and this is really intentionally, when this statute was written, those words, exorbitant or excessive, were not defined in the statute, right? So there's some flexibility here that goes to the Attorney General's office if the AG wants to go after a provider of one of these services. And so if you are charged with charging an exorbitant or excessive price for lodging, then you may be running afoul of the DTPA. So what is an exorbitant or an excessive price in the real world, right? Well, the way we tend to look at this and the way that the Attorney General's office has tended to look at this is your hotel rates, the rates for rooms that you're charging during a disaster may not exceed what you would typically charge at the same level of occupancy during non-emergency periods, right? So we could use easy numbers here, right? If, at 80% occupancy, you're charging, say, $200 a night for a hotel room, but a disaster occurs and you now are at 80% occupancy, that's going to be your cap for for this disaster period, right? So we're going to follow what you have a history of. And so what does that mean? Well, typically what we're going to do is we're going to look at your rate history, or you need to be looking at your rate history for your full occupancy 30 days or longer before the emergency. Your rates during the emergency or disaster should not be significantly above your traditional full occupancy rate for that prior period. I would argue, or I would say, if you really want to be safe and conservative here, not even significantly above, don't keep those rates in, keep those rates at that level of occupancy. Don't let those rates increase beyond that level of occupancy. There's an exception. The exception will exist for any pre-existing contracts that you may have for a room, but you'll need to have evidence. It's saved evidence that you have a pre-existing reservation or contract that existed prior to the disaster declaration, right? So if we think back to the Hurricane Harvey storm, right, that came ashore, that storm impacted a very large area of the Texas coast. If you'll remember back, first that storm came ashore in Corpus Christi, and then it went back out to sea, and then it came onshore in a big way in the Houston area and towards the east, going all the way towards Beaumont, right? It impacted a very, very large area. And when we came ashore in Corpus Christi, we had windstorm damage, right? So hotels in Corpus Christi area and Port Aransas were hit with wind damage. But in Houston, the Houston area, it really, the catastrophic aspect of that storm wasn't so much the windstorm. Galveston got hit a little bit, but it was really the rain and the flooding that caused so much damage. But we all know Houston, right? There are areas of Houston that are more prone to flooding than others, and not every area of the city and the general area experienced a lot of flooding. So maybe your hotel on the northeast side or northwest side of Houston, maybe you didn't get so much flooding at your hotel or any flooding, and you had maybe a group that was coming into your hotel and they were still able to come to the hotel. Your operations weren't negatively affected. Maybe you were further up in Brenham, Texas, right up 290, and you had a pre-existing group, but we know we had people that were evacuated up to Brenham, right? What do you do in that circumstances? Well, if you had pre-existing reservations or pre-existing booked business and you have evidence of that, you could charge that full rate. But remember, the governor's declaration is going to go in effect anywhere, any county in which he declares a disaster, right? So again, we think back to Hurricane Harvey. That disaster declaration was expanded well beyond the coastal areas, all the way up to Austin, Dallas, Fort Worth. Why? Because people were fleeing the storm and going that far, right? So even if you were far from the storm, you still had to follow the price gouging laws that were in effect, but you may have also had those pre-existing reservations as well. How is the AG going to try and build a case against your hotel for price gouging? Well, they're going to subpoena your guest records and they're going to compare those emergency rates to past and other comparable rates. So you really want to have that evidence in line. What do we do? What does our association do in this situation? Well, we work with the AG's office to try and resolve price gouging complaints before they escalate, right? So we may have a situation where a hotel operator, we're going to send out notices well in advance of a storm. We always do. And we're going to tell you, these things in writing. This is how you avoid price gouging. This is common sense. But maybe you missed that or email from us, those emails from us, right? And your yield management system allowed those prices to escalate. What do we do? Well, we're going to try and help intervene with the AG's office and resolve those issues. Maybe if we become aware of an alleged price gouging complaint before the AG's office is involved, we're going to reach out to you if we can get in touch with you to try and make sure that you understand what the price gouging laws are so you can bring those rates back down. We do a lot of industry education just like this. We have a program with the AG's office where the Attorney General will directly refer individuals to the association, to us, if there's any sort of issue that arises. So hopefully we can resolve it before the AG comes in and tries to resolve it, on behalf of the state of Texas. We want to talk just briefly about hotel room signs because this is related as well. In fact, let me skip a slide and I'm going to come back to this one. This is what a typical room door sign looks like in Texas. Yours may vary a little bit in the font selection or the size of it, right? This is a picture of a card that, we typically give out here at the association. We have these, by the way, at no charge to THLA members. If you'd like us to send you some of these room rate cards, just let us know and we'll put them in the mail to you. But we have two components of this room rate card, right? On the top of this card, you're going to see the limitation for liability for valuables. This is like a limit on your liability. If a guest's personal property, maybe like, their cell phone or something like that goes missing, you may be able to take advantage of that limited liability. That's not the subject of this webinar today. We're talking about room pricing and disasters and whatnot. It's the bottom portion that's really relevant. So we already talked about the DTPA and the price gouging law. We have another law that also affects how you price rooms. In Texas, like most states, we have a maximum room rate that you can charge for your lodging, even when there's not a disaster occurring. And Texas law requires you to post in a conspicuous place in every hotel guest room the maximum rate that you can charge for that particular room. And furthermore, the law requires you to put a date on when you posted that maximum room rate, and you may not charge that higher room rate if you increase that price less than 30 days before you post it. So if you want to, maybe World Cup's an example, right? World Cup's occurring right now, but if we go back in time, say 6 months ago, World Cup 7 months ago, 3 months ago, doesn't matter, more than 30 days in advance, you knew World Cup was coming and you wanted to increase your maximum room rate, you need to go through and make sure that those signs are appropriately labeled. Okay, so the prior slide. So you have to post a maximum room rate. And this must cover your highest demand period. Be realistic though, right? So yeah, I mean, it might be tempting to say, well, what if I put, $10,000 a night for this room type on this card? And that way I never have to mess with changing that again. Well, good idea, except for there's a problem. If you put a rate on there that you're never realistically going to get, the attorney general's office may come in and say, you know what, you were trying to obfuscate the law here, try to get around the requirements, and so we don't think that rate is accurate. We don't think that's realistic, and we don't think you're in compliance with the law. So pick a room rate that is realistic to actual demand. And again, you must wait at least 30 days before you charge that higher room rate. Limited liability posting, that's the top part of the law. This allows you, again, to limit your liability to $50 if guests' property goes missing. We have some guides on this. I'm happy to share this out with you, but let's stay focused on disasters for now. Okay, so let's think about this. When we have a disaster that's likely to occur in Texas, and in hurricanes are, of course, the easiest one because we typically know they're coming. What do we do? What's our action plan? What should we do? Well, first of all, we need to have a plan in writing at your property. This is going to be very specific to your operations. You'll want to list things that are going to require or that will trigger an evacuation or a closure of the business. Maybe if you decide you're going to lose electricity for an extended period of time, we can't cool our rooms. We're going to probably have to close our hotel. If we lose running water, we're going to have to close our hotel. If we don't have adequate staffing, we may have to close our hotel, right? So we're going to want to have some sort of in writing factors that we're going to consider that are going to affect our operations. And that's in addition to anything that's more physically related to your hotel property, like making sure that, things are secured and, your pool area is clear of deck furniture, all of that kind of stuff, right? But you also need to formulate an action plan for your employees. Well, you see this when we have major storms. A big storm comes ashore and it affects a wide stretch of geography in Texas. You're going to likely have employees where their own housing is going to be negatively affected by the storm. So you may want to consider, and I would suggest you should consider, offering housing to your employees first, maybe for their family as well, probably for their family as well. So offer housing to your employees. And that's really for two reasons, right? One, of course, they're going to be there and ready to work for you if need be. But then two, you're watching out for them, right? You're making sure that they have a place to go in the event of a disaster. The big winter storm, we had, remember, a number of years ago, what was that, 2021? A lot of hotels allowed their employees to stay in the hotel if the hotel had electricity, right? So you want to have that in place. What else? Yield management systems. Consider turning them off. This continues to be an issue. And I will tell you, even as our yield management systems are increasingly utilizing or incorporating AI in the management systems, over and over again, we see situations where a hotel had a yield management system that was adjusting room rates and nobody was really paying too much attention to it when a disaster started to occur, and that yield management system kept escalating prices and escalating prices and escalating prices. Nobody was paying attention at the hotel level, and all of a sudden we had price gouging that was occurring. Nobody was intending to do it. Remember that law on price gouging. Intent is not an element. It doesn't matter whether you intend to price gouge or not. You can have unintentional price gouging that occurs as well, right? And when it's unintentional, we see it from yield management systems. So we suggest turning your yield management system off. Work with your hotel brand in that case. I know if you're a franchised hotel, oftentimes you're utilizing the franchised hotel's yield management system. And so you really, really want to pay attention to this and have this part of your operational plan, because you don't want to have unintentional price gouging that occurs due to your yield management system. And by the way, that's going to apply to all of your distribution channels. So if you're using GDS systems or others to sell rooms, make sure that yield management system is turned off across all the channels in which you're selling rooms, so you don't have an allegation where it's like, well, this online travel agency was selling rooms on our behalf and we didn't realize room rates were going up and up and up. That's going to be a tough thing to defend. And so let's take action on the front end to make sure we don't have that. Consider taking your room inventory offline. This is something to consider, and the reason why you want to consider it is if we have a major catastrophic event like a hurricane that affects a big geographic area, the demand for lodging is really going to escalate very quickly. And often you may have situations where the your online platforms are unable to handle all of the requests from guests that are coming in. You may have a situation where your hotel is taken damage and you're not able to operate, but you're still accepting reservations, right? You may want to avoid that. Maybe you want to hold some rooms back for first responders or second responders, or maybe, guests coming down the pike. You may want to consider taking your room inventory offline as a result and only allowing reservations via an actual live agent. I'll leave that up to you to decide. Your operations better than I ever will, but this is something we do advise that you at least consider doing. And then be ready to cancel inbound reservations. It seems obvious, but I mean, this is something you need to have staff ready and trained to do, that if your hotel is damaged or if you're going to be dealing with evacuees, you may have to cancel inbound reservations. Be ready to accommodate special requests. So if it's a big disaster, it affects a wide area, you are going to be getting requests from local government officials, the mayor's office, right, the county judge's office, the TDM, et cetera, right? The governor's office. These folks are going to be contacting us. They're going to be contacting you, and they're going to be asking for rooms for first responders and for second responders. What's a second responder? A second responder is somebody who usually tends to be working for a government agency or like a utility, right? So the linemen that'll come in after a windstorm, that'll come in to repair and get the electricity going again, right? These individuals obviously need hotel rooms. You may want to consider reserving some rooms for those second responders if you feel like they're going to come in. Obviously, we want to get the disaster electricity turned on as quickly as possible for our community and for your hotel, of course, too, right? So having rooms available for them is going to be really critical. You'll want to make sure that you can work with them in order to do that. We may be reaching out to you at the association level. Our local associations may be reaching out to you too to see whether or not you can consider accommodating these individuals. You may want to consider getting signed up now with FEMA's Emergency Lodging Assistance Network. There's the webpage for it. It's ela.corplodging.com. ELA is not activated in every large disaster, but sometimes it is. You can always sign up for this at any point by going to that website and having your hotel listed. This will allow you to sell hotel rooms to individuals should FEMA activate that emergency lodging assistance network, right? They run it through their third-party consultant. Okay, after the disaster occurs, and this is really, I'm going to have to turn this over to ServPro here in a second because they're going to get into, really making sure your property condition is in good shape. But from the legal aspect of things first, we got to make sure our people are safe, right? It should go without saying, but we got to say it. Make sure our people are safe. You want to evaluate your property's condition, look for any sort of hazards, look for any sort of damage, document everything, right? Use videos, use photos, get that cell phone warmed up and ready to go because odds are you're going to need to file a claim. ServPro is going to come right in. They're going to do a great job cleaning up your property. But if they may do such a great job cleaning up the property, we need to preserve the evidence first. So get those photos going before they come in and do that great job because we need to be able to show that this damage occurred, if we're going to file a claim with our insurance. And then we need to determine whether or not we can take guests and which guests we can take. What do I mean by that? Well, maybe we have a situation at your hotel property where your electricity is still out, but you have running water. Can you accommodate guests in that scenario? Well, it's going to be really dependent on your operations. Are you a downtown hotel that's 20 stories tall? Without electricity, I don't know, probably not a good idea to accommodate those guests. But maybe you're, a limited service hotel and it's hot in the rooms, but if you could open windows, maybe you can accommodate guests. What are some other types of guests you may be able to accommodate? Well, I talked about the first responders and second responders. Oftentimes, we'll have those individuals that are more able to stay in a hotel without running water or without electricity. If we have fire departments that are coming in, they may be willing to stay in a hotel without electricity a little bit more willingly than just your average guest, right? So your needs are going to differ depending on what's affecting your hotel and what your hotel looks like. But start thinking about that there. If you have any questions, you're welcome to contact us, and we'll help you walk through what you need to think about when you're doing this. How do you get in touch with us? Well, there's our contact information. TexasLodging.com. You'll find us all there. My mobile number's there. Don't hesitate to give me a call on my cell phone. I'm glad to talk to you guys about anything you may have when, like I said, and when a disaster is hitting. We know it's going to be all hands on deck, and we're glad to do it. So let me see if we have any questions in the chat. None for me. I don't see Christy. Let me stop my screen sharing, and I will turn it over to Christy to do an introduction for ServPro.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Justin. Greetings, everyone. Christy Gwynn here, AVP of Partnerships with Texas Hotel and Lodging. And I am thrilled to welcome our friend and colleague, Jennifer Olson and Patty Fernandez with ServPro. Jennifer is a bold and competent, competent and empathetic leader, directing national commercial accounts for one of the top five Serve Pro franchises out of more than 2,500 nationwide locations. So, for those of you that have properties in Texas, but may also have properties in, Louisiana, Oklahoma, surrounding areas, Serve Pro and Jennifer are here to help. She's known for a clear and steady communication and trust building approach. She really helps to empower both clients and her team to navigate when these challenges hit with confidence. So she's known to us as excelling on complex, large scale loss and delivering rapid and effective solutions to help make sure that operations are safer and stronger than ever before. So if you will all join me in welcoming Jennifer, we are thrilled to have you today.
Sorry, I'm here talking and I'm muted, but yeah, sorry about that. So, gosh, thank you so much. Yes, I am Jennifer Olson. I'm with ServPro Team Zubricki. I travel across the country, so whether your hotel is in Texas or anywhere else in the U.S., my team and I can help you. As a national director, I have to tell you that you guys have just put on one of the best presentations to your association that I've been on. This is such an important topic. Everybody, thinks about the weather, but they never think about recovery. And I think what you just went through, Justin, was amazing. So I might take some of your notes and steal them at my next presentation. So truly, if you guys are on the call, you are very lucky to have an association that is setting you guys up for success for sure. Okay, so we are ServPro Team Zubricki. We were founded by our owner Zubricki in 2009. Like Christy said, we are part of the top five ServPros across the country. So there isn't anything that we can't handle. So whether it's a toilet overflow or the storms that are supposed to be coming through Texas tomorrow, we are ready to go. We are pre-positioning right now. We've got 6 locations where we keep all of our equipment, and 2 of my facilities right now are loading up our 53-foot trailers so that we can get on the road and get pre-positioned to help you guys take care of that. So we can go to the next screen here. Okay, so ServPro has 2,500 locations. These are all the ServPros that I have access to. So no matter where you're at in the country, even if you've got some properties that are up in the North Dakota area, we can still get you. If you're working with any other restoration company, and you're looking at what their footprint looks like, you can tell that we have a bigger footprint than any other national brand, which is really important to you because, again, Mother Nature is a beast. And if she's coming through, we want to make sure that we're able to help you with that. So these are all of our locations. If you see some areas that are sparse, that doesn't mean we can't get to you. It just might take a little bit longer, but we cover the entire country. So we're able to get you pretty quickly. Next. So in 2024, these are all the natural disasters that happened. This is amazing to me when I look at this. They lost funding, so they do not have this number for 2025. Be interesting to see what that looked like, because although there wasn't any hurricanes, there was a lot of wildfires that happened. But just so you can see, Mother Nature is crazy when she comes out in full force. So when we're looking at this map, if you've got hotels that are in this area, it's going to be really important that we have a conversation after that. If you've got properties that are not always impacted by Mother Nature and this climate disasters that were happening, it's still a really good idea, because you never know when you're going to have a pipe break, or maybe you're going to have a guest that stays in your hotel room, and you need to have extra cleanup for that. On top of what the disasters are, my next screen is going to show you all the work that my team, not all Serve Pros, but this is what my team, Team Zubricki, performed in 2025. You can see that this is a really big footprint of where we can go and what we can do. These hurricane states, again, you guys really need to have a conversation with us, and I'll kind of go over what that looks like here in a minute. Next. Okay, so we're going to play a video, and I'm hoping that everybody has the volume on here so that you can hear it. Go ahead, Patty, hit that video. Okay, that is not rainwater. And the middle one, Patty. Thank you. This is not a rainstorm. This is not Mother Nature. This is a pipe break on a Tuesday afternoon in their attic that took out almost their entire hotel. So when we look at that first video, when they sent it to me, I thought it was rain because it sounded like rain. However, it's not. That is the amount of water that is coming down the side of that building from one single pipe break. Not Mother Nature, one pipe break. This hotel, this management company, had actually been engaged with us, and we had performed emergency ready plans on all of their properties. So when we got the call, I actually personally got the call around 2:30 in the afternoon. We were able to pull up their emergency ready plan. So I knew exactly what that building looked like, who was in charge, how many rooms they had, where the elevators were, and where we could park, because that was such a huge loss. Now, when you're looking at these videos, I want to ask you a question. I wish I could see everyone's faces, but we don't need to play those anymore. Thank you. I want to know, if that were to happen at your hotel, do you want to be on a top priority list, or do you want to be another caller in the queue? And I'm assuming everybody is going to say, I want to be a top priority. I want to make sure that I have a team that knows what they're doing, that can handle the insurance company, that can help us with the gas, that can help us recover quickly. So if you were interested in being a top priority, again, we should have a conversation when this is over. Next. Okay, so what is an MSA and what is an emergency plan? Well, Justin just laid it out for you, the things that you need to do when we know that weather is coming, but these are really the things that we need to do all year round. You have a safety plan, so you know what to do. You know that you've got to get your pool furniture in. Maybe you're boarding up some windows. Maybe you are, talking to your guests. You're canceling room reservations. You're inviting your employees to stay. But what does that really look like after? How many of you truly have what we like to call our recovery plan? Because we can't really plan fully for a hurricane. We can't fully plan for that pipe break. But if you don't have a recovery plan, meaning you don't have somebody that you can call immediately at 2 o'clock in the morning, how far is that going to take you? How long is that going to take you to recover? So when you partner up with ServPro Team Zubricki, myself and Patty, who's my account manager, you're going to get priority service. We're going to get out to you immediately. So if it's a hurricane and your entire state or part of your region is having issues, and we're talking homes, hospitals, restaurants, hotels, schools, all of that, do you want to be another caller? Do you want to have to wait for service, or do you want us to come out to you right away? And again, I'm confident that you want us to come out right away. That's why having this emergency plan is so important. If you have a portfolio, we can handle wherever you're at in the country, and we would put all of your locations on our top priority list. We would also give you a designated number to call directly to me and my team, and it would be one point of contact. That's kind of a story if we decide that we're going to go in that direction. But the most important thing I can tell you right now, after listening to Justin, is let's have a conversation. Let's put an emergency plan together so that when you need something, you're going to be our top priority. Next. So here's how we work out with our emergency plan. So let's say that you have a portfolio. We're going to take a list of all of your properties. We're going to put them on a spreadsheet. And Patty is going to work really closely with either your operations department or just your single hotel to make sure that we have all the necessary information that we need are on our end to make sure that we can get out to you quickly. And the way that this works is if you have a portfolio, you'll send us that entire list and we will reach out to your company. We will reach out to your general managers and we'll say, we're with Servpro Team Zubricki. Don't call the 800 number because you will not get my team. You're going to want to call us directly. Here's your private line. And here's how we're going to set up the emergency plans. You can go to the next one, Patty. We're also at the end of each year or each quarter, however you want to do that, we're going to give you a complete list of all the jobs, what the amount is, what the situation was, what type of loss, and the locations for your recording purposes, and then also for our recording purposes. So it's going to be really easy at the end of the year for us to decide where your gaps are, where your loopholes are here. So we make sure that when we're moving into the next year or into the next quarter, that we have a good idea of what we're looking at here. Next. And then we'll go in by job loss. This is something that I find to be really instrumental when we're looking at things. Water damage is almost 100%, especially when there's a fire, because the fire department comes in and just starts spraying water. So when there is fire, there is generally 9 times out of 10 also going to be water damage. And when you're in Texas and many parts of the country, that secondary mold, that secondary damage can happen quickly. So again, I ask you, do you want to be a top priority or do you want to be another caller in the queue? Next. Okay, so here's what happens when we show up. This is a question that I get all the time. What exactly does emergency response look like? And here's what it looks like. We're going to immediately show up on your property and we're going to triage and we're going to take damage assessment. Like Justin said, documentation is the key. If it's not documented, it didn't happen. So while you're trying to maintain your hotel, we are making sure that we are able to get everything documented for you. And I'm sorry, I'm having computer issues right here. I'm so sorry. I don't know what's going on. I lost power earlier. I'm in Chicago. I'm not quite sure what's happening. But anyway, so we are going to go through all the documentation that we can send to you and that we could also send to your insurance company, because if it didn't happen, if it's not documented, it's hard to prove. After we do that, then we're going to come in with all of our equipment. We're going to make sure that we get it dried out. We're not going to start digging into drywall, pulling up carpet. We're not going to do any of that until we have a conversation with the powers that be and also with your insurance company. But that documentation before the storm and then after the storm is so important. So if you get all the documentation before the storm, we will come in and handle everything after the storm. Next. So this is what it looks like behind the scenes. This is called our initial loss report. This is going to be taken by the crew that first gets out on site. This will be sent to whoever the powers that be are with your company. And this also gets sent to your insurance company. On that is going to be a ROM, a rough order of magnitude, so that we understand and you understand what exactly is this going to cost with this loss. Now, that's not going to include any of the reconstruction. So when you come in and it's like the pictures that we showed you earlier, that was a big gut on many of those hotel rooms. But right now, the first initial set is just to get you guys in a position where we can start to mediate, get those emergency services, and start drying out, because we don't want to have secondary damage. but we document everything. So not only are you going to get this initial loss report, you're going to get from us every day a daily progress report as well, so that everybody in your company and everybody on our team and the insurance company understands what is going on a day-to-day basis. Next. This is what we do when we immediately come in. This is called our moisture map. So let's say that we get there right away, but your insurance adjuster isn't going to be there for 3 or 4 days. We are going to make sure that we moisture test all the areas that we believe to be affected. Because if your insurance adjuster doesn't get there for a couple days, things might be dried out on the outside, but behind it, in the insulation, on the drywall, maybe the padding of the carpeting, all of that could still be wet. So we make sure that we do moisture maps from the start, and then we also do them at the end. So those moisture maps are really key in recovery. We do the daily moisture reading. So when we come in and we see that one of the hallways had a big saturation of moisture, we put our dryers in there. When we come back and measure that moisture over the next couple of days, that's going to determine whether or not we have to pull out that drywall. So we always say we would rather restore than replace. Okay, next. So limited business interruption. Okay, this was great, Justin, because you had talked about when they lose power. I can tell you that we can bring in generators. If you have a restaurant or you have refrigerant that you need, to be back up and running, even if like you're putting your rooms back online or maybe secondary, we can come in with hot and cold water. We can bring in generators. If you have a free situation down there, we can help with that. We'll bring in fencing so that if there's a fire, we'll bring in that fencing. We do biohazard mitigation, and we can bring in our temporary restrooms and sanitation. The nice part about Serpro Team Zubricki is that truly, when you call us, there's nothing that we can't handle. So everything from the staging of it all the way back to putting it together like it never even happened. Meaning, if we have to gut a couple of your rooms, if we have to gut the entire property, we're able to put that back together like it didn't even happen. So it's one contractor and one point of contact. Next. So an emergency ready plan, there is no cost to these. And I highly encourage everyone when we get off this call to send me an email. We'll also reach out to you guys. It's no cost to put an emergency ready plan together. That automatically puts you on our top priority list. So if we do that today or we do that tomorrow, when you have weather Thursday, Friday, or into next year, and you call my team, number one, we're going to put your address on our map, on our storm map. So we're going to be able to see, and we're going to keep an extra eye out for your property. But when you call and we see that Houston is having some weather and there's lots of hotels and restaurants and schools and everything else underwater, when you have this emergency ready plan, you go from another caller in the queue and you move up to the number one caller, and we get out to you right away. Next. It can go on your phone. It can go on your laptop. You can go to the next one, Patty. And then it also comes in a hard copy that you can put at your front desk. We will also be giving you guys, mailing you, or if we come out and do the ERP in person, somebody from my team, we'll make sure that you have big posters and we'll meet your team to make sure that everybody knows who we are. But this is really important to have at your front desk so that if it's 2 o'clock in the morning and a pipe breaks, your front desk night auditor is going to know who they need to call, whether they call us first, whether they call your general manager first, whatever that looks like. We want to make sure that all of your employees have our phone number and they know exactly who to call. Next. The other thing that's so important is we want to make sure that everything is tagged from your electric to your gas to your water. I hope there's a water picture on here, Patty. There's not. Okay, so if you go back to this, we will also tag all of your water shutoff. So again, if that night auditor gets a call that there's a pipe break, they pull this out. There's a map of where they're going to go to. They're going to walk into that room and it's going to be tagged with the big orange tag that has water on it, and they'll know exactly where to turn that off. If there's a leak of any type, you can't necessarily turn off the water to the entire building, but you can turn it off to that area of the hotel. So we'll help you mark to make sure that you guys know exactly where those water shutoffs are. Next. Okay, I apologize for the difficulty. I live in Chicago. We've had really bad weather here over the last couple days, and for some reason my electric here was going out a little bit. But if you scan this QR code, that's going to be my information. Again, I really encourage you guys to put a recovery plan together. This was such a great call, Justin. I think you nailed it. Patty and I were texting and saying, you're speaking our language. This is
Yeah.
exactly the kind of call that you guys should be having. So as you have your safety plan, have a recovery plan, have my team on speed dial so you know exactly who to call so we can come help you. And that's it.
Thank you so much, Jennifer. We so appreciate you. And we want to give everybody just a moment. If anybody has any questions, I see that Manissa Gonzalez has her hand raised. So, Manissa, I will unmute you so that I'm going to allow you to speak so you may ask your question. Anybody else, please feel free to pop them in the chat or raise your hand because we are happy to answer questions as they're coming in. Manissa, I believe you are muted, but you are allowed to, you are set up to speak if you're still with us. All right. Well, I will encourage you to email Jennifer or Justin or respond to the emails that you received from your team here at THLA with any questions that you may have. We are more than happy to provide guidance and assistance. We are thrilled and thankful to each and every one of you and to our friends at ServPro for joining us today with the upcoming hurricane season. And as Jennifer said, the storms that are happening in Chicago and across the U.S., it's now more than ever that we should be prepared. So I'd like to thank you all for attending.
Yeah,
Thanks,
thank you guys.
everybody.
We appreciate the partnership.
Absolutely. Sure do.
Thank you.
Thanks
And
very
to those
much.
that joined, we will share a link to the video recording as well. So each of you that attended will get this in recording. So,
All right. Thanks,
all right.
everybody.
Thank
Thank you.
you.
Bye.